In 1965, Sergio Leone directed a spaghetti western film titled For a Few Dollars More. While Sergio was busy directing the movie, little did he know that life had other plans for him. For a Few Dollars More turned out to be one of the films that would launch him into great fame and wealth. After the release, people realized that Sergio Leone wrote the movie with Fulvio Morcella. This increased his fame. The screenplay, written by Luciano Vincenzoni, turned out to be one of the very best in the history of Western cinema. The movie tells the tale of two bounty hunters who are trying to hunt a bank for a few $1,000,000 more. Things got intense between them, and it led to deaths and dangers. Clint Eastwood and Lee Van Cleef's ability to play the role of bounty hunters well earned them the applause of their audience. After the movie's release in the United States, it was marketed as the second installment in the Dollars Trilogy. The film was an international co-production between Italy, West Germany, and Spain, and this increased the movie's audience after its release. People loved the movie, however, unknown to many things happened off-camera that could have ruined the film completely. Years later, hidden secrets about For a Few Dollars More have been brought to light. Some cast members, including Clint Eastwood, Van Cleef, Mario Brega, Aldo Sambrell, and others, have decided to talk about the movie. In this video, get ready to explore the fights, budgets, rumors, challenges, technical and location issues that happened on For a Few Dollars More when no one was watching. Known for its superb performance, For a Few Dollars More remains one of the spaghetti western movies of the mid-20th century. Are you ready? Let's go. The script that was almost rejected. When Clint Eastwood was approached with the script for the movie, he nearly rejected it. In an interview with the BBC, Clint initially opened up about his thoughts on the film. While speaking to BBC reporter Ian Johnstone, Eastwood shared that the script indicated he would appear in a very different setting. The script meant that he would have a more genial demeanor than he was used to. Though charming and fun in reality, Eastwood had to play the role of a stern and hardened protagonist in Sergio Leone's Western. All these made him think and worry about taking the role. At first, Eastwood recalled that he was not particularly interested in joining the low-budget European film. He further revealed that at that point in his career he was no stranger to Western movies, and he was already starring in the hit television series Rawhide. The movie was a more traditional movie than For a Few Dollars More, and this made it hard for Eastwood to take up the new role. Later he shared, "I liked the movie though, and I felt that maybe a European approach would give the Western a new flavor." Unknown to Eastwood, that role was going to launch him into stardom. Let's explore that. The ride to stardom. Years after the release of the movie, Clint Eastwood's career transformed for good, and things got better for him. In the film, he played his role with great skill, and it paid off for him. One of his scenes got lots of people talking. Let's check it out. In a particular scene, a man clad in a dusty poncho and wide-brimmed hat swaggers through an empty street in a harsh desert town. "Get 3 coffins ready," he instructs a coffin maker, before confronting the men who have been mocking him. "My mistake," he adds, after shooting the thugs. 4 coffins. This particular scene made Clint Eastwood stand out, and people learned more about him. Gradually, he became a cinematic icon, and more opportunities opened up for him. Clint Eastwood's role in the movie allowed him to act in the rest of the Dollars Trilogy. The unwanted actor. During the casting process, Sergio Leone never planned to have Clint Eastwood on the set. Though people applaud Eastwood for his outstanding performance, he was not the first option for the role. Leone admitted that he had initially planned to cast James Coburn, the man who starred in The Great Escape and The Magnificent Seven, but James refused the role. "I really wanted James Coburn, but he was too expensive," the Italian director told the BBC. Apart from James Coburn, Leone also approached Henry Fonda and Charles Bronson. After he approached them, the actors turned down his offer for the same reason as Eastwood. They were either expensive or uninterested in Leone's dirt-cheap Western movie. They were wary of featuring in an Italian-Spanish-German co-production with a terribly translated screenplay and hand-me-down costumes. Later, Sergio decided to reach out to Eastwood. At the time, Eastwood was an affordable option. That time, he cost around $15,000 compared to Coburn, who cost about $25,000. This man, with a vacant look on his face, in an unwatchable film about cows? Leone later said about Eastwood, "But Clint was affordable and keen, mainly because he'd never visited Europe before." Eastwood's subsequent casting is what film historian Henry Blyth now describes as a happy accident. "I didn't see any character in Rawhide, only a physical figure," Leone said. "What struck me most about Clint was his indolent way of moving. It seemed to me Clint closely resembled a cat." The actor and director relationship. At the beginning of the movie, Sergio and Eastwood didn't have a great film. The actor and director had different opinions. There was a little tension between the two of them. Their relationship was tricky at first. It started with language issues. Leone didn't speak English and Eastwood didn't speak Italian. For easy communication, they had to make use of an interpreter. Their interpreter was a Polish woman who had survived a German concentration camp. While Sergio Leone had lots of expository dialogue, Eastwood insisted on cutting down those lines. Eastwood had watched Yojimbo and admired Toshiro Mifune's lead performance. Blyth shares, "Clint remembered Mifune's tense, restrained yet effortlessly cool performance and fought to preserve the same quiet mystique as Joe." Leone biographer Sir Christopher Frayling attested to Clint's uniqueness. He wrote, "Eastwood became one of the very few actors in film history to fight for fewer lines." Eastwood also admits that he had deliberately set out to play an anti-hero in the movie. "I did get awfully tired of playing the conventional white hat," he recalled. However, there was more to the role than being an anti-hero. His character embodied Leone's West. He had to play the role of a harsh, grizzled, and witty person. The turbulences behind the scenes. Leone and Eastwood were going through lots of turbulence. Both Leone and Eastwood did a lot to make the movie a success, despite the limitations they had. For instance, in one scene where Eastwood plays the man with the poncho hat, Leone and Eastwood provided everything needed. They brought in the hat, the poncho, the sheepskin waistcoat, and the cheroot cigar. With the different costumes joined together, they got to make good use of them all. After the character's creation, people often saw it as more of a myth than a fact. As filming continued, Eastwood was warned of troubles ahead, and it all happened. The production was always on the verge of shutting down the whole way through and constantly ran out of money until finally one of the Italian producers had to smuggle a suitcase full of cash into Spain, says Blyth. "That's dangerous, right?" Well, it is. At that time, it was illegal to export currency from Italy, but producer Arrigo Colombo sneaked it in a suitcase with 30 million lire across the border. However, the movie also had interesting parts. With the European setting, the film was able to portray the Wild West theme. The effect of the setting was that it doesn't feel like either place, but a sort of nowhereville. The movie treats the West as more of a fairy tale than a historical fact. This was the consolation they had while filming the movie. Clint Eastwood's salary. After the movie's success, there were various rumors about Clint Eastwood's salary. People believed he would take in millions, but that did not happen. Don't be shocked by this. When Eastwood reportedly signed a contract to play the lead in the movie, which led to his involvement in the other three trilogies, he agreed to a $15,000 salary. What he never expected was that the movie would be a bigger success than they thought. The film's success led to a much bigger budget for the second installment, and this allowed Eastwood to receive a much larger sum. By the time he was done with For a Few Dollars More, Clint Eastwood was offered $50,000. After the release of the movie, Eastwood was approached to make a third movie with Leone. He was reluctant, and this nearly led to his being recast in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. While talking in Clint Eastwood, a biography by Richard Schickel, Clint shared that it took a whopping $250,000 to convince him to take the role. In addition to that figure, he was promised a portion of the movie's box office profits in the West, estimated at around 10%. The profits from the first two installments made that agreement doable for the studio. After accounting for the extra money he received from box office earnings, it was clear that Eastwood's salary was more than 5 times higher for the movie. According to movie analysts, the breakdown of Eastwood's income shows that his demands increased after the release of For a Few Dollars More. The movies ended his status as a struggling TV and B-movie actor. This further opened him up to numerous acting opportunities in Hollywood and elsewhere. Though Eastwood was only paid $15,000 at first, he was able to earn larger paychecks from other series. When Clint Eastwood was back in Hollywood in the late 1960s, He was making movies like Where Eagles Dare and Paint Your Wagon, which had salaries that were reported to be in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. Van Cleef's entrance. Lee Van Cleef's entrance into the movie was unique. For a very long time, he was hard to approach, and it was tough to track him down. According to reports, Van Cleef left the acting world and started making a living as a painter. This happened because of a car accident he suffered, and this left him with a limp. For a long time, he couldn't run, much less ride anything but a docile horse. He was gradually going to extinction, but Sergio Leone was not ready to give up on him. Sergio flew to Los Angeles, and his first sight of Lee Van Cleef, older than his photograph, made him believe that he was the right man for the role. According to Sergio, Van Cleef's face was so strong and so powerful. The salary he was offered was a fat purse of $10,000. After Van Cleef agreed to take the role, Sergio Leone made sure to put him to work immediately the day he arrived in Italy, filming reaction shots. Unfortunately, his input that day was limited due to the language barrier on set. To make matters worse, Van Cleef was confused and didn't know why he was chosen for the role. He had no idea what kind of Western the director had in mind. At Clint Eastwood's urging, he nipped out to a local cinema and returned with the understanding that the script was definitely second to style. Van Cleef was easy to work with, and although he could put away a fair amount of refreshment, it never interfered with his work. He gave his all to the role, and it amazed Sergio to watch him act it. The no English actor. Many interesting things happened behind the scenes that people were not aware of. One of them is that Gian Maria Volonté performed his lines in English even though he couldn't speak the language. To assist him in his role, Gian relied on a translator to convey everything word for word, as he did not speak the language. Though sources claimed his voice was not heard in the English version, it was partially true. Further research shows that his lines had been dubbed by veteran voice actor Bernie Grant, who also voiced Volonté in A Fistful of Dollars, which was released in 1964, and the Embassy Pictures version of A Bullet for the General. However, despite his inability to speak English, he played his role well. In the movie, Gian Maria played the role of the Indian, the main antagonist in the 1965 spaghetti western film For a Few Dollars More. Gian was the psychopathic leader of a gang of wanted outlaws who had Douglas Mortimer and Manco join forces to go after his bounty. He is also the arch-enemy of Colonel Douglas Mortimer. Gian's name resonated in the hearts of many for a very long time, and this helped him gain excellent access to more opportunities despite his inability to speak English. The legal issues unknown to everyone, Leone faced a lawsuit over Eastwood's portrayal of the character. Let's see how it all happened. Before releasing For a Few Dollars More, A Fistful of Dollars was released, and the movie became a huge success. However, with the film's release came many imitations. But this led to a fallout with Jolly Films, and the production team told him he wouldn't be paid unless he made a sequel. Their decision pushed Sergio Leone to get a new producer, Alberto Grimaldi. His decision led to more issues for him. After bringing in Alberto, Giorgio Papi, and Harry Columbia of Jolly Films, he sued them, claiming ownership of the Joe character. This led to minor changes in Eastwood's character. Eastwood didn't want to do a second film before he had seen the first. So, an Italian language print was sent to him because the English dub hadn't been done yet. Most people at the screening didn't know Italian, but they liked its style and action, and this made them bring Eastwood on board. A brutal movie and more. According to different movie analysts, For a Few Dollars More is a more brutal movie than others, and someone commented on that. Even though I've read For a Fistful of Dollars to be more brutal than For a Few Dollars More, I think that the reverse is true when looking at the uncut versions of both. For example, both films have a beating sequence, and in the second its two characters are on the receiving end, but there's less detail, and the laughter of the villains becomes so over the top, it diminishes the violence. Perhaps the nastiest bit is the second of two hazy flashbacks, where there's a forceful intercourse and a deliberate taking of people's lives. It's presented as discreetly as possible for 1965. This event made him into a far worse person and seeks solace in substances like A Fistful of Dynamite's Sean Mallory and even Once Upon a Time in America's Opium-Addicted Noodles Aronson. Though one wonders if the writers actually knew anything about substances, the way that it's presented. Indio also carries a chime, a musical instrument of death, much like harmonica's harmonica in Once Upon a Time in the West, though here one shared between two people, and the film clearly finds Mortimer more interesting than Manco, but then it tells us more about him. He was even once a soldier, which continues the vague anti-war theme of the first two parts of this trilogy, which becomes much more overt in the third. Carefully chosen locations. In the course of shooting the film, the director made sure to pick locations that would help bring out the uniqueness of the movie. And this came with a lot of stress and effort. The film was shot in Tabernas, Almeria, and Spain. Moving from one location sure took a significant toll on the actors, but they had no choice. Apart from shooting in these places, they had to endure the stress of creating different interiors for different scenes. Some of those interiors were done at Rome's Cinecittà Studios. The production designer Carlos Simi built the town of El Paso in the Almeria desert. However, the place still exists as the tourist attraction Mini Hollywood. The town of Agua Caliente, where Indio and his gang fled after the bank robbery, was filmed in Los Albaricoques. The place was a small Pueblo Blanco on the Níjar Plain. Unique musical score. One of the factors that contributed to the movie's great success was its musical score. The score was composed by Ennio Morricone, who had previously collaborated with director Sergio Leone on A Fistful of Dollars. When the movie was being filmed, Sergio made sure to reach out to Morricone for the music. Under Leone's instructions, he started writing the score before production began, as Leone often shot to the music on set. The music was ready, and Leone was wowed. According to music analysts, the music stood out for its unique blend of diegetic and non-diegetic moments through a recurring motif that originates from the identical pocket watches that belong to El Indio and Colonel Mortimer. "The music that the watch makes transfers your thoughts to a different place," said Morricone. "The character itself comes out through the watch, but in a different situation every time it appears." A soundtrack album was originally released in Italy by RCA Italiana. And in the United States, Hugo Montenegro released a cover version of the soundtrack album. Later, Billy Strange and Leroy Holmes released a cover version of the soundtrack album with the original American poster art. Maurizio Graf sang a vocal Occhio per Occhio, or An Eye for an Eye, to the music cue 60 Seconds to What. Though Graf's performance did not appear in the movie, it was later released as a tie in 45 RPM records. But it's on record that Ennio Morricone wrote all the tracks. Over the years, many people attested that Morricone's score contributed to the film's success. Also, the composer wrote themes in advance for the director to shoot footage to. Among the motifs was a recurring melody for a musical pocket watch that later became a significant detail as the film unfolded. The mime. Do you know that Sergio Leone spent a considerable amount of time miming while directing the movie? A poor grasp of English, and this made it very difficult for him to communicate with the actors. Between takes, Sergio would often rely on the words, "watch me," before miming whatever he wanted from his leading man, Clint Eastwood, and his other actors. Many unpublished photographs revealed Sergio miming and acting out some scenes to the actors. Thankfully, Sir Christopher Frayling, a leading cultural historian, was given access to hundreds of images in archives that had belonged to Leone and his set photographer Angelo Novi. Frayling further shared that when A Fistful of Dollars was made in 1964, the words "watch me" were the extent of Leone's English. He added this: he would mime what he wanted and then start filming. After singling out the photographs, Leone revealed that the miming was also done in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Frayling said, "There's one of Clint Eastwood between two people being carried in front of a wagon, the arrival scene at a mission hospital, and one of Leone mimicking that. They're virtually the same. The movie that stands out." On many occasions, there have been arguments over which movie is the best among For a Few Dollars More, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and A Fistful of Dollars. Guess which movie won? Go ahead and drop your guess in the comments section. One of the movie analysts claimed that For a Few Dollars More stood out amongst other movies. The analyst wrote, "I also love one of Eastwood." He continues, "When someone asks me what my favorite movie of all time is, I have the usual hemming and hawing response about how hard it is to say. But if pressed, I say it's Sergio Leone's 1966 epic masterpiece, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, a movie that transcends both the spaghetti western and the action film as a whole to become a symphony of bravura and bravado. I truly love it, but I might have to say the better western, the truly greatest western ever made, might be its direct predecessor, 1965's For a Few Dollars. More people also took into consideration Sergio's ability to direct a low-budget movie and turn it into something extraordinary. After seeing the money the film made in Europe, Leone directed another film with Clint Eastwood, The Portrayal of Violence. While directing the movie, Sergio's only goal was to paint a bad picture of physical violence, pain, and death in the hearts of many, and he did a great job at this. Also, Sergio Leone's second goal was to create his own triangle of lead characters for the Dollars Trilogy. Though it was hard, he finally achieved it after lots of trouble. In the movie, Eastwood played a bounty hunter who takes other people's lives exactly the way Sergio wanted them taken. As he puts on his tattered serape and hat, he becomes Monko, a young bounty life destroyer who outsmarts and outguns anyone. Sergio Leone is out opposite the steely-eyed Lee Van Cleef as the aging bounty hunter, Colonel Douglas Mortimer. Mortimer was brilliant in a different way from Monko, using gadgetry and trick weapons to get his prey. Also, while pairing the heroes, Sergio Leone offered a kind of proto-buddy cop movie. The entire opening, which lasted for 10 minutes, shows Mortimer on the trail of an outlaw with a price on his head, so we get to know him. After the opening, another 10 minutes showed Monko's brand of more in-your-face outlaw chasing. When they finally meet and realize they are after the same blunt, we get a prolonged display of machismo, where neither party wants to kill the other unnecessarily. Monko shows off his skill with a pistol, while Mortimer patiently waits to show off his skill with a ranged weapon. It's a near-wordless exchange that sees both men with hats full of bullet holes by the end. A fan wrote about Gian Maria Volante's presence in the movie. "I mentioned a character trio, and the third prong of that trifecta would have to be pretty strong to offset a pair of icons like this. And he is. Easily the film's most bombastic character is the bandit leader, El Indio, played by Gian Maria Volante, who'd portrayed the bad guy in Fistful as well. A cackling psychopath, Indio is a Western version of Gotham City's Joker, taking the lives of his own men and changing his plans on a whim. And he's shown smoking marijuana to calm the demons in his mind, while whirring electric drones of Ennio Morricone's score, Echo, on the soundtrack. Record-breaking box office. For a Few Dollars More is more than just a famous movie. The film broke records and became a box office success. The movie was released in Italy on December 18, 1965, according to Qualche Dollaro in Pew. According to records, the movie proved more commercially successful than its predecessor. For a long time, the film became the highest-grossing film in Italy with a gross of 3.1 billion lire from more than 14 million admissions. The movie, which opened in Spain on August 17, 1966, as La Muerte Tenía un Precio, ended up becoming the highest-grossing Spanish film of all time, with a gross of 272 million pesetas. This is equivalent to $4.53 million in 1966. For a Few Dollars More was the seventh most popular film at the French box office in 1966. The movie had a total of $10.5 million grossed in international territories outside North America. In the United States, the film debuted on May 10, 1967. Not long after its release, it became one of the most watched movies. The movie grossed a total of $20 million in the United States and Canada, adding up to a total of $25.5 million grossed worldwide. The co-director. Do you know that at one point in the movie, Sergio Leone was not the only one directing? Yes, he wasn't. He had help, but kept it secret from the public. While preparing for a Few Dollars More, Sergio brought in Alberto Grimaldi, an Italian entertainment lawyer who had worked for Columbia and 20th Century Fox. Alberto had also produced 7 Spanish westerns. His achievements and abilities made Sergio Leone decide to bring him in. While discussing with Sergio, Alberto promised to triple the first film's budget to $600,000, with the director on a salary and a 50% profit share. Success sure breeds artistic confidence, and this was what happened with the movie. The success inspired Leone, and he decided to pursue his goals and dreams. He later decided to develop his authorial voice and become the best at what he does. For a few dollars more concept challenged. This is not the usual news you will see or hear of, but it happened. While the movie enjoyed fame and popularity, behind the scenes, its concepts and ideas were frequently challenged. There were claims that the violence was displayed too rawly, and this was not welcomed. Many critics condemned the movie. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times said, "The fact that this film is constructed to endorse the exercise of violent people, to emphasize violence, bravado, and generate glee and frantic manifestations of death is, to my mind, a sharp indictment of it as so-called entertainment in this day." Later, Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times described the film as one great old Western cliché after another, and said that it is composed of situations and not plots, but found it delicious. Also, there were criticisms that the character was open to parody. A year later, Lando Bazanka released a movie titled For a Few Dollars Less, which was later released in 1966. The Dollars Trilogy. After the release of the movie, people mentioned the Dollars Trilogy more often, which made them increasingly interested in watching the other series and also led them to talk about For a Few Dollars More. In a retrospective review of the Dollars Trilogy, Paul Martinovich of Den of Geek said, "For a Few Dollars More is often overlooked in the trilogy, awkwardly sandwiched between both the original film and the best known, but it's a stunning film in its own right." Paolo Sardinas of MovieWeb said, "Eastwood gives it his all and turns in another iconic performance along with scene stealer Lee Van Cleef, who helps make For a Few Dollars More twice as good as its predecessor." The film historian Richard Schickel, in his biography of Clint Eastwood, believed that this was the best film in the trilogy, arguing that it was more elegant and complex than A Fistful of Dollars and more tense and compressed than The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. The director, Alex Cox, considered the church scene to be one of the most horrible deaths of any Western, describing Volantes Indio as the most diabolical Western villain of all time. The movie written in anger. Do you know that at one point Sergio Leone got so furious and decided to make a sequel in anger? Let's see how it all happened. Sergio Leone's original plan was a caper picture called Grand Slam, or a remake of Fritz Lang's classic M to star Klaus Kinski. There were rumors that he was contemplating an autobiographical drama, Viale Glorioso, which was set in the 1930s. Jolly, one of the producers of A Fistful of Dollars, offered him a 30% profit share on the film if he ended up making a sequel, as he felt he was legally obliged to do. Sergio got angry at how he was treated in their hands and decided to seek that sequel. He stumbled on the title, For a Few Dollars More, but the actual storyline came into fruition when he came across a treatment called The Bounty Killer by Enzo Dell'Aquila and Fernando Di Leo. In exchange for their screen credits, the two accepted the money Sergio offered. Luciano Vincenzoni later completed the screenplay in 9 days, leaving its humor after the director and his brother-in-law, Fulvio Morsella, had produced a revised treatment. Leone also contributed to the final screenplay. For a Few Dollars More is a movie that explores violence in an intriguing way. Clint Eastwood plays the role of a bounty hunter who takes the lives of many without any remorse. His role shows society what an evil state it has gotten to and how merciless people can be. Sergio's ability to direct the movie in a way that piqued people's interest earned him their respect. The film has also revealed to many that what we all see on camera is little compared to what happens behind the scenes. What can you say about the movie now? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the grand reveal of For a Few Dollars More by the cast, hit the like button and ensure you subscribe to our channel to get more videos.